Welcome to the TheLanCave. I'm Patrick. I'm actually solo today, so I apologize if I get a little bit rambly, but you get to hear me and me alone talking about video games, nerd stuff. I apologize if I glance over here at my notes every now and then and all that kind of stuff. I'd like to talk to you lovely people for the most part. We actually have quite a bit to talk about today, which kind of sucks that I'm the only one here, but first and foremost, because we're nerds here at the TheLanCave. We're living as nerds. We got a trailer to the Picard TV show, which I'm excited about, fittingly starting where we last left off with Captain Picard in his vineyard. So this is, I don't know, it's very fitting. To me, it was emotional on how quick it is, how subtle it is, how brief it is. It doesn't have to tell you a lot. All that you have to know is that we're back. It's Star Trek. And there he is walking the fields. So very excited about this. In a way that, I don't know, not necessarily few things make me this excited, but it really warms my heart to see what I would think is going to be some classic Star Trek, some classy Star Trek coming back into television. Not to say Discovery is bad. Owen's been watching it, obviously. I've only watched the first couple episodes, but it's very different. It's very different from old school Star Trek, and not necessarily old school, but I would consider the renaissance of Star Trek, Next Generation, and Deep Space Nine era. Going back to that generation and being able to do it faithfully is going to be really interesting. A 25-year gap between now and when the series ended, if I'm not mistaken. Double check me in the comments, by the way, if I'm wrong on that. But I think it's fitting. I'm happy about it. Happy about the direction, and making sure my microphone is in the right direction. It is, so you guys can hear me okay. Yeah. Anyways, we also got a tweet about the Sonic movie saying taking a little more time to make Sonic just right. No visual effects artists were harmed in the making of this movie. Very happy about that. And what they're referring to is the Sonic trailer that released, that the internet completely trashed and said, what were you thinking? I don't understand the direction other than Eggman. Eggman's great, Dr. Robotnik, if you want to do a throwback. But I'm fine with Jim Carrey on this, but what people weren't fine with was the design of Sonic, because right after seeing the Detective Pikachu movie, you'd think they'd nail this, but it looks like, I don't know, it looks like this was made in the late 90s, early 2000s, is what it looks like to me. They said they had inspiration from Ted, from the Seth MacFarlane movie, Ted, but in regards to texture, in regards to movement and everything, and to me, it doesn't look anywhere near as good as Ted. So I'm glad that they're delaying it. I'm glad that they tweeted out no visual effects artists were harmed in the making of this film, because that's one thing that we talked about in the show, and a lot of other people have talked about, is crunch time. And when you have to make changes or have to get something rushed to a development from an art standpoint, it's hard to necessarily rush art from a time perspective. So what that usually means is the artists work longer hours. And that's what I was worried about with this. We didn't hear anything about delays. Now we did. I'm happy that they delayed it, because that means these artists are being respected. Their work is going to be seen. I'm definitely going to vote with my dollar and go see this movie because of that. It looks like they're gonna make it right. We've actually seen some fans that did some really good renditions and mock-ups of what it should look like, or what it would look like, hopefully when they fix it. Speaking of crunch, by the way, as I try to segue, the Dead by Daylight CEO was talking about this recently, and they had basically Behavior Interactive. They abolished the crunch when it comes to their production because of the work-life balance, the stress that it involves. You don't get as good of a product from your employees. Your employees will they're not going to give as good of a performance for you, if you want to think about it as a performance. Their work day is going to drag. They're not going to give you the quality that you need, and it's really fitting. Also, as I segue again, because the World Health Organization, I'll try to speak kind of quickly on this, because the World Health Organization has been talking about mental health, and they declared two things recently sorry, I'm looking at my notes. Declared two things recently as diseases. The big one that people talk about right now has been gaming disorder, but also work burnout. So talking about crunch reminds me of that, because you can pay someone more, but that's only going to go so far if you're treating them completely terribly. If you're grinding on them constantly, it's going to wear that person down, and they're just not going to want to come in. They're not going to want to do the work. So the work that they do end up doing is going to be completely, not even lackluster. It's going to be terrible performance. Whether they're trying to do it on purpose or not, they're not going to be able to work as hard. They're not going to work as hard. And I'm really glad they're declaring that as a disease, because it's true. I've seen it happen with people. I've seen it happen with myself, where if you are in a situation like that and you are not valued, if you don't feel valued as an employee, as a performer, if you will, as an employee, if you don't feel valued, those employees are going to jump ship. And that's why there's so many people jumping ship right now that have in the past 10, 15 years. I think they've talked about the previous loyalty, where people would work for a company for 20 years. It's not seen as much anymore. So someone who stays with a company for a while it's not necessarily rare, but it shows that the company's doing a really good job because of that. The companies that have a lot of turnover tend to not be treating their workers as well. So the other part of that, obviously, is the gaming disorder. Now, I do agree with this to an extent. I could rant on about this quite a bit. But the gaming disorder that they're referring to me, I think it's too much of a blanket statement. To me, it's a further type of addiction. Addictive personalities will have this. I have an addictive personality in a different way. But certain people who have addictive personalities will become addicted to certain aspects. It doesn't matter what it is. They're going to find addiction if it has some type of reward, especially if it has a reward built in, like video games do. Other people get addicted to, obviously sugar. Sugar is actually more addictive than, I think they're saying it lights up the same parts of your brain, hits the same receptors as like heroin, and the way that it, and how addictive it is and what it does to your brain. Refined sugars, processed sugars. So to me, when it comes to activities that are addicting, there are people that get addicted to that type of thing. So they are people who have addictive personalities. To me, I wish that we would classify it as such. We talk about it as an addictive personality, as opposed to further separate it from not necessarily an activity, but something that creates a physical dependency. Tobacco, heroin, as I mentioned, all these kind of drugs are bad, kids. I know we have kids that watch the show, but drugs are bad. But this type of addiction, I think, needs to be separated, because we're not talking about. It is not necessarily the object that is addictive. It is the subject who is addicted to a behavior, and it's more of a behavior modification. To me, I think that makes more sense than trying to categorize gaming disorder. I think that's them trying to blanket statement, or not blanket statement. They're trying to further define what should be all categorized. Similarly, the autism spectrum is a better way to categorize a classification. Sorry, I won't get too scientific, but that's just my feeling on it. I think that it can be a disease, just in the same way as any other person can be addicted to anything else that gives them any activity that gives them rewards. Runners can get addicted. A lot of people can get addicted to an activity because it has some type of reward. Runners have a runner's high because of the endorphins that are built in. So there's all kinds of things I could talk about on there. So I'll end my rant. We'll go back to more nerdy stuff, which just out of nowhere we have Death Stranding. We have a trailer launching for Death Stranding, 8-minute long or something to that effect trailer, which is one of the best trailers I've seen in quite a while. Quite a bit in here. I had to watch it probably 3 or 4 times, I'll be honest, and it was because of the way that Kojima tells stories is not what you would imagine, and the world is so different. You're talking about 8 minutes in a world where you see a trailer for a movie and you think, oh, they just showed the entire movie. I watched this thing 4 times and I'm still trying to figure out parts of it. It is that rich, it is that deep, it is that cryptic, but at the same time, we're never going to fully understand how this man's brain works, but I think that we've now understand a little bit more about the game. Not to say we understand everything about it, but Norman Reedus' character is apparently working for the president, and I'm not going to spoil too much here because I don't know much, but he's working for the president. They mentioned that he's working there because he can see BTs, which are these ghost figures. As you can see here in the trailer, you have all this very creative and inventive exploration, so very real world ways of traversing these. They're mixing a futuristic technology with real world solutions, which I find fascinating. They go into talking about these other organizations, or I think that they refer to them as extremists. Strangely enough, refer to them as homodemons, which immediately I'm like, could you choose another phrase there? Like, I don't know what you're getting at in calling them homodemons. I thought that was kind of weird. I don't know if it's a translation thing because Kojima is from Japan. Maybe it's a reference to something else. We'll have to dig further into it. I'm not going to let that stop me from playing the game. There's a lot of talk about connection in this game. The president mentions helping us reconnect. They mention so much of the world being disconnected, and that humans at their heart are striving for connection. Similarly, Hideo Kojima tweeted out a picture and some text, and said, "People have built walls and become accustomed to living in isolation. Death Stranding is a completely new type of action game where the player's goal is to reconnect isolated cities and a fragmented society. All elements, including the story and gameplay, are bound together by the theme of strand, or connection. As Sam Porter bridges, you will attempt to bridge these diversions, and in doing so create new bonds or strands with other players around the globe. Through your experience playing the game, I hope you'll come to understand the true importance of forging connections with others." Now please enjoy the latest Death Stranding trailer, which I thought was an amazing, moving set of words. I'm sorry, it gets me a little emotional, but it's true. We as people have created barriers sociologically, emotionally, physically from each other, and they further divide us from humanity, from us just helping each other and creating those connections. Those connections in real world are just so amazing, and we as humans strive for those connections. Another thing they mentioned in the trailer, but yes, so much of the trailer is interesting and cryptic. I apologize. I'm going to go back to the trailer real quick. I need to grab my spot again. But towards the end of the trailer, they talk about the baby that we have seen in the other trailer. Still don't know much about it. They mention that it's going to help him. I think it helps him have some type of connection or be able to not necessarily see. So he can feel them, but he can't see them. Amazing cast, by the way, of actors, actors and directors showing up in this special appearance. It keeps saying on there. I don't know. I don't know if that means it's a favor. I assume these people are being paid. Definitely the actors are being paid, but just amazing, mind-boggling scope and very inventive, which of course I knew it was going to be. But one of the last lines in it is, we're assuming it's Mads talking to the baby. Whatever you want to call that thing. I say thing because I don't think it's necessarily an actual fetus. We don't know. But one of the last things that he says is, "You can go wherever you want, even the moon." I don't know what he's getting at, and a lot of this, I don't think we're going to know for a long time. Some of it we may never know, but similarly to Metal Gear, if you played any of the Metal Gear games, you have to really, it's like reading a good book. You go through the entire thing as a journey, and then it's almost, you have to reflect on it. It's really hard to just succinctly say, this is what it's about. I feel like these type of video games deserve discussion the way that good novels deserve. Not every game deserves that, but these do. And the way that they tell stories is phenomenal. And I'm happy that he's getting to do that. I'm happy that he's getting to do this. I wouldn't say it's not on his own, but he's able to do it the way that he wants to do it. He's doing it on his own terms. With his team. Happy about that. Speaking of doing things on your own, we talked about Mario Maker 2. I'm still excited about this. I just want to be brief about this, though, because in regards to Mario Maker 2, I'm excited about it, but Nintendo did clarify that you're not going to have a way to actually play with your friends on this game. There's not going to be a way to do a lobby. There's not going to be a way to specifically group with a friend and play. You can play online. You can play online with friends. So sorry, you can play online with people live, but they will be random people. If you want to play with your friends, you have to play couch co-op. It does disappoint me a little bit. I wish that this had, again, some type of online element where I can party up with friends of mine, especially since I moved to Florida. Those of you who don't know me personally, I moved from Texas to Florida, and we came out here knowing very few people. We do have quite a bit of friends now, in my opinion. I think we've done pretty well for ourselves in that. But at the same time, it's really cool to be able to jump in and play with friends that are back home. They're back in Texas. I'm going to start playing Grand Theft Auto online. I've been playing a little bit on PS4. I'm going to start playing it on PC with a few of my friends because I miss hanging out with them. That gives me a way to hang out with them, and I get to play Grand Theft Auto. So it's going to be cool. I wish I could play Mario Maker. There's quite a few people that I'd like to play Mario Maker with that I won't be able to do unless I physically go there, which it's a little disappointing. I was already going to play a couch co-op, so it's not a deal breaker, but it's a little disappointing because I really wish that I had that type of online element to be able to party with friends, like Sea of Thieves or any other online game. I really hope this game has it, though. Marvel's Avengers, which honestly, I don't even know if it's going to be... we don't know what it's going to be at all yet. The worldwide reveal is going to be Square Enix at E3, so that is June 10th. We will be covering that, by the way. Full reactions. We'll have tweets and Facebook messages and everything, but we'll have actual reaction videos on our YouTube page, as well as our recap will be that Wednesday, the Wednesday following the show. I don't care. Honestly, I don't care that if this is an online game. In fact, I really wish it would be a single-player game to give me more narrative. I know we're getting the Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 3 on Switch, but I feel like that game is much more of a beat 'em up, and it's a showcase. The Marvel Alliance games have always been a showcase of, look at all these cool characters, look at them all together. Look, we get to fight this person. There's a story. Don't worry. Don't get me wrong, but I really hope that Marvel's Avengers, this game, is going to be more like an Arkham, where we have a large overall narrative that we get to explore in a single-player game. It'll be interesting to see how they do that. If they're going to choose 2 or 3 main characters and kind of bounce between them. I don't think that you're going to be playing as one character, but you may. So it could be interesting. If you create your own character, it could be interesting as well, but I think that goes into a completely different world, like different realm. The whole DCU and everything, like, people want to play the heroes. Some people want to create their own, but a lot of people want to play those heroes that they love. So I think Marvel, I think that this should be, I hope that it is, a game where you get to play some of the heroes, not create your own. I think it's a different realm. If this is like a DC, their version of DCU, I'm not saying it's going to be bad, but it'll be more interesting. I think it'd be more interesting from a narrative perspective. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox. We'll tell you more about that at E3 when we do our coverage about it. Before that, though, Pokemon is going to have a direct on June 5th. That is Wednesday. It's next Wednesday, a week from today. By the way, we will be doing a show next Tuesday, not on Wednesday. So we will not. We will be tweeting about this, but we will not be doing a live video as we normally do. So they have. This comes on the heels of them just having an investor meeting about Pokemon, where they talked about Pokemon Sword and Shield, which was probably going to be the big focus of that Nintendo Direct. But they also mentioned during that investor meeting Detective Pikachu 2, which, sorry, this is, by the way, this is not from that. This is from the 3DS game. I just wanted to give you a little bit of stuff, but wonderful game that I really want to go back and explore, because I've seen such great stuff of this game, and I loved the movie. I was really happy to see that this past week, and absolutely loved it. So I'm happy they're doing Detective Pikachu 2. I think it's an easy answer. I think it's an easy yes for them to say this is going to be good, especially with the success of the Detective Pikachu movie. That being said, it may be early in development, but that's okay. Good things come to those who wait. Pokemon Masters, though, will also be coming out. I don't think we have a release date on this, but this is a mobile game. I'm going to just double check that as I am live, and I apologize. But it's a mobile game that was announced for mobile. I don't see a release date. They mentioned it during the press conference. It says we'll be releasing... Sorry, it says something else, releasing in June. That can't be right. Pokemon Masters TBA for this year. More information about the new title... Sorry, the more information will come out in June, but it'll be releasing on iOS and Android. But it just says more information on the title will be released. I hate that wording. Don't put release in there, because that makes me think that you're going to release the game. But it's that you're going to get more information about that later on in June, more than likely during the Direct or afterwards. Interestingly enough, we also got we got the announcement of Pokemon Sleep, which apparently, to me, when I read it, I thought it was a joke, because to me it sounds like a joke because it is going to help you track your sleep. Not to say that's not a bad thing. Sleep is very important. I think the majority of people don't get enough sleep, don't get quality sleep. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I find it really interesting. But anyways, a lot of cool Pokemon stuff coming out. We knew that we were going to get more games. We didn't know we were getting this many more games. Either way, I'm really excited about Sword and Shield. I love the traditional Pokemon games. I've not played Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu. I've heard they're fun. But I've heard people say that they were good, that they were fun, but they're not as deep of a dive. If you want to call Pokemon a deep dive, there's not as much to do. It's not as difficult in regards to the combat. But either way, I'm going to get Sword and Shield. More than likely getting another Switch later on this year anyway, so having Pokemon Sword and Shield, if I can trade between those two, will be really cool because the wife will have one, I'll have the other. I'm excited about it. One more bit of news before I let you go today. We got a leak, which I'm going to put up a footage of a previous game, but we got a leak of the next Call of Duty Modern Warfare game. So for those of you who don't know, the first Call of Duty game was titled Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. The next Call of Duty Modern Warfare game is going to be referred to as Modern Warfare. As if that can't get more confusing. This is the fourth title in the Modern Warfare series, and it is being referred to as just Modern Warfare. It's not confusing at all, like the Xbox One when trying to refer to that in conversations with people and say Xbox One, not the first Xbox. Or if I should say reverse, if you're talking about the first, talk about the Xbox, not the one. Or referring to the Rambo movie, not First Blood, but Rambo. Or you say First Blood. It's just confusing. If those of you who didn't know, the first Rambo movie is called First Blood. The second movie is called Rambo First Blood Part 2. So then the fourth movie in the series is called Rambo, because the first movie wasn't called Rambo, so you can put it as the fourth movie. Make it chronological. I mean, it's hard enough in a day, like we can talk about like the Marvel movies. We have 21 Marvel movies. However many we have, to watch those in order, you have to go online and look up the order. Same thing with James Bond. To watch them on order, you got to look them up online. But when you're numbering, if you're already numbering, just stick with your numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's not hard. Just stick with the numbers. It gets really confusing from a chronological point, from a conversational point, when you're talking about if you're talking about a later movie, not to be confused with the earlier movie because they have such similar names. But what do you think of the Call of Duty new game announcement? What do you think of the name of it, Modern Warfare? Do you think it's confusing? Should it have been called Modern Warfare 4 or Modern Warfare? Let me know in the comments what you would have called it. If you think the title is good, stick with it. And if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe to us here on YouTube or live on Facebook. Make sure you're liking our page, and you get to see all kinds of cool stuff. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're everywhere, and you should hang out with us more often. So hang out with us every single Wednesday, for the most part, every single Wednesday live on Facebook, and we'll see you later.